This edition is episode 19 of Often Beats. For this one, I'm gonna do something a little different. No poem, no jokes. I'm just gonna speak. I don't know what I'm about to speak about, but I know it will resonate because I have a tendency to be able to pull shit out of my ass like Groundhog Day and a rabbit going down the groundhog's hole and creates its own groundhog rabbit hole. Action. See, when we look around in the world today, we always have looks and answers for our peers. We ask things that they fear. We ask the tears that they tears, and we somehow find a way to put each other in different tiers. It's funny, as we are fishing like we're on a pier for compliments that are nowhere near. Moments that we hear, it's almost like we're still waiting on the French to give us our tea, like we're Lemire. I just don't get it. Why can't we just truly look each other as equal? We throw the 5s with the 8s. Somehow they couple together, make beautiful babies. No one bats an eye. But all of a sudden, the guy who makes a lot of money and a girl that doesn't, somehow from the outside, it doesn't look captivating to the eye. It's funny, we think of the worst these days. Every girl's a whore. Every man's a cheater. Every girl is a gold digger. Every man is afraid to lose it. And it creates greater stress between us. It creates a divide before we can even truly reconcile the past that we still keep inside. It's funny how we want to go live with things, but we don't even really feel alive. We're trying to get views, we're trying to get likes, but we don't even like the things that we put out to receive those likes. It's funny how we view things, but we just want to be viewed. It's funny that we're always looking for something new when this symphony is from the 1800s and it speaks to every language that we still speak. You don't need to know Spanish, you don't need to know French, you don't need to know Dutch, you don't need to know Portuguese, you don't need to know English. You just have to have ears. Because see, what music like this does, this is Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata. The great thing about old music in that time frame is that it can resonate with your emotions and how you process what you're listening to. It's not because it's a steady pace. It's not because it can extend for hours. You can listen for hours, you can fall asleep, you can wake up, you can work out in it. How much music these days can you do that trifecta? Can you fall asleep? Can you work? And can you work out in? Where you can do no activity, where you can multitask, or where you're exuberant a lot of physical activity. Tell me, what music can you listen to today that is like this? You know why you can make this music then? Because music was more widespread. Music had a message without words. You're saying, I know, well, they didn't have recording studios. They didn't really have mics where you can make music and write music on paper. You're right, technically. They would go to theaters and you can hear them live, but there's no way they can put it out for everyone to hear. But that's the whole point. You had to be there to live it. You didn't become immune to it. You didn't become neglectful of it. You didn't become discriminatory of it. You had to be there. And that's really a microcosm of what was then and what is now. Fuck the 1800s. Let's just go to 2000, 2010. These devices have made you something you're not. As has persuaded you and has made you make decisions you would normally not. Think about in high school. Let's say you're someone my age in high school. You may have a phone, maybe you don't. Maybe you barely speak. Maybe you barely call on the phone. That's a big deal. Remember back in the day where on Fridays and Saturdays it was unlimited minutes after 9 o'clock, so your parents would say don't call anyone after 9 o'clock? I bet when you go back in that time frame, you weren't as saturated in all the bullshit as you are now. Because we have too much at our fingertips, literally and figuratively.
I signed up to be a dasher and I absolutely love it. The sign-up process is...
This is a perfect example. An advertisement just interrupted my commencement. It just interrupted my passage. I had to stop what I was doing, even though I was in the zone, just to be interrupted by something. It's amazing that even when you're trying to spread a message, it somehow profounds itself in the middle of your message. We have too much at our hands these days, and we do absolutely nothing with it. Sure, we have more easier access to make appointments. Sure, we have easier access to connect with friends. Yeah, because that's what we just use Instagram and Facebook and Snapchat just to keep in touch with friends. You have their phone number. It's really not a useful thing. That is not the point of why we keep these things. We want to interact with people in different ways than ever before. I have felt less closer to people than ever before. It's not because this pandemic where you can't really just, for a good while, you can just meet people on a cuff and feel like-minded about it. It's because it wouldn't matter. It doesn't matter to us. We're so used to it. Over the past 9 to 10 years, we are so used to it. There's no real good impact. There's no real good feeling of doing it. Meeting your close friend. Because you could just send them a picture of where you're at. You could just tell them where the facts. You could just tell them, let me get on your back. But you know what? As long as we just send I love you and emojis and pictures of where we are, saying thinking of you to your friends, all of a sudden that's the same. But we know it's not, but we accept it. Because that's as close as we're gonna get, because communication between humans always evolves over time. And you know what, for the most time it's the better. But sometimes, is it? Because sometimes, maybe you need to make it better. Sometimes maybe you need to adjust to the times. You need to bring back the old times. Sometimes there's some good things in the old times to still bring. Sometimes the new times aren't always good, and next time you know, we just sit here and we want to listen to music, and sometimes it's okay not to sing. Maybe you go home. Maybe when you meet your mother, maybe when you meet your father, maybe when you meet your brother, your sister, your cousin, your aunt, your uncle, and everyone you haven't met yet. Even your third cousin that if you only know if you go on Ancestry.com that no one ever actually gives a fuck about. You have to communicate. You have to show love. You have to show passion. More importantly, you have to let them know that you are here. Be here. I don't mean my room, I mean if you want to, but no, be here in the moment. Be here in this life. Because you know what, in this life that we live, we get so caught up in things that don't mean a goddamn. We want to work for jobs that don't give a fuck about us, to get another dollar, to pay something. We don't think for ourselves, we don't create for ourselves, we don't do nothing for ourselves, we don't do nothing for our family, we don't do nothing for our kids, we don't do nothing for our parents. Absolutely nothing. You notice, we make fun of older people for always being the old time back in my day. But really, they're just giving us little warnings. That they see the faults. They see the good of what's here, but they also see the faults, that you don't have to work as hard to get there. And that means even when you get there, you don't have the sustainable work ethic to get and stay there. There's a sustainability that matters, that comes from being here. But But see, I'm not gonna let you do that. I'm not gonna let you sit here and draw down the youth because old heads are telling us that we aren't anywhere where we need to be. Because we are lazy, we are hypocritical, we are not what we need to be. And you know what? They're probably right. I want you to go to your grandparents. I want you to even go to your mother and father. Look how different they communicate around their family than you do. Because in the back of your head, you always want to be somewhere else because they're so saturated with shit to distract us from what is there in the well. The water is there. The well is just begging us to drink it. And we will get fruition. We will be hydrated. Our body will be cleansed. But we have to eat that McDonald's, that fast food that we call Instagram. And this has come from someone that has regularly posted lately. I literally only have one to do as such. Because that shit is bad. I'm not here telling you what you should and shouldn't do. I'm just reminding you what you could be doing. That could be doing the same thing, but better for you. We're going to talk about communication, not distracted by pictures. You know how back in the day they probably didn't really have pictures? You had to imagine it. You had to see it and do it yourself and do paintings. We make fun of those days. But you know, sometimes I wish life was that simple. Now there's just too much here. That's why we don't have as many people that think for themselves. You wanna know why we live in the world where we're easily manipulated by media? I'm not one of those getting politics and shit, but you know why we live in a world where we're manipulated by media? It's because we have people that have never even had to, by necessity, learn how to think for yourself because everything is right there. We have all these sources of information. You have left, you have right, you have Fox News, you have CNN. It doesn't matter in this analogy. The only thing that matters is that you have to pick a side, or you pick from both and I'm in the middle, which still by default, you don't think for yourself to see for what it is. We have lost the ability to think for ourselves, which by default has made us weak. This is why we have a weak society. This is why we have people that we look down on. This is why we have tiers in society. Yes, tiers and wealthy and poor and middle class have always existed. But at least it was the best of the best. You're not even giving yourself a chance. You're just looking around like a prance and you just want to go out and dance, but you never learned how to dance. You know why? Because dancing takes a creative mindset and interpretation to yourself. And music today isn't supposed to be a direct interpretation. Everything's actually, music today is just a direct interpretation. Yes, you'll find songs where there's a hidden meaning. But they're telling you it. They're literally speaking it to you. And you can only analyze it in many different ways. Music like this, every single person you ask will have a different misinterpretation of what this means to them. In the best case scenario, you may have a song can have 3 different meanings to different people. Other than that, it doesn't really go that deep. Music like this, though, makes you have to think for yourself, which is the biggest issue in the world today. Why we have a lot of our issues? Because people don't see things for what it is. We are easily manipulated by words, by pictures, by videos, by clips, by asses. They really are seducing our mind to places that we don't even know if it should be there. Did God create our minds to go to these dark places? Maybe. God gave us the ability to create the world we live in. But people are flawed. And we have created a flawed world simply for the fact that we have lost the ability to think of what this world is. Like music back in the day, the biggest issue is that everyone has a different interpretation of the world today.